Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast Radio.
Well, COVID-19 caused so many businesses across the world to pivot, and my next guest was no exception. Only CW Applied Technology pivoted by rolling out a product that kills the virus, which actually caused the pandemic. John O'Connell from CW Applied Technology joins me now to discuss his plans to bring this innovation to a global market. John, we'll be discussing the sterilising device that is enabling CW Applied Technology to tackle COVID-19. But first, I'd like to get an insight into your own background.
Very good. Well, I'm a Kerryman by birth. I'm from Tralee originally. I did an electronics engineering degree in UL a good many years ago now. And for the last 30 years, I've been working in the electronics industry in various companies. And 6 years ago, I did a management buyout from the company I was working with at the time and set up CW Applied Technology here in Shannon in County Clare.
And prior to the onset of the pandemic 18 months ago, what area was the business specialising in and how was it performing at the time?
We were in electronics design and manufacturing, and we still are. We support a lot of startup companies, SMEs, and larger companies as well. And what we are really is contract manufacturing. So that is, we manufacture under contract for anybody. So you bring a product to us that you need to have manufactured. The company was doing okay. You know, we had, like everyone, probably we have our ups and downs. We're doing well in certain areas. Automotive electronics would be a speciality for us. Also doing quite well in healthcare at that time. And then the opportunity came along in March of 2020 to get into the UV sterilising area.
So in a way, the coronavirus has acted as a catalyst for developing a product which you now plan to take to global markets. Tell us about how you developed the MOVX disinfector.
I will do. Well, back in March of 2020, we had a request from a surgeon, Professor Karen Redmond, who's a consultant thoracic and lung transplant surgeon in the Mater Hospital in Dublin, and she was looking for a room ultraviolet steriliser. And she felt at the time that every hospital, every GP surgery, every medical clinic should have one, everyone in the country. And she felt that this was a key part of the arsenal for fighting COVID-19. So at the time, I didn't know anything about UV sterilisers, to be honest with you. I didn't have one. I didn't know anyone that did have one. But once I studied it, I came to realise that given our skills in electronics design and manufacturing, then it's something we could do. But I didn't want to just jump in and become a steriliser company overnight. So what I did was collaborated with a company in the United States who'd been in the room ultraviolet steriliser business for more than 25 years, a company called American Air and Water. And in talking with them, we together came to the conclusion that one of their products was ideal for what I was looking for, but they couldn't sell it because the electronics was all out of date and they had been quoted some enormous cost to get it redeveloped. So that was serendipity, if you like, because that's what we do, you know. We design and develop. So we took on that product to completely redevelop it. Then the product became ours and we paid them a royalty fee for everyone we sell.
And how exactly does the MOVX disinfector work?
There's 3 types of UV light or ultraviolet light that come from the sun, UVA, B and C. Now C is the only one that will kill bacteria, inactivate viruses. Now typically UVC from the sun is blocked out by the ozone layer, thankfully, because you know it's a killing device really. It kills bacteria, but it can't distinguish between good and bad bacteria. So what we have done and what is done in UV sterilisers is that we recreate that UV wavelength of light in a bulb, and nobody can be present in the room while it's operating. No person, animal or living plant can be there. And what UV light does is it breaks down the DNA of a virus or bacteria, splits it so that it can't recombine again, and it renders it, in the case of a virus, it renders it inactive.
And talk to me about the rigorous testing process that you had to bring that product through.
Yes, we go through the standard kind of testing, if you like, CE approval and certification and so on. But there's a lot of UV sterilisers on the market, and a lot of them are of dubious origin, let me say. And there isn't a lot of regulation around the market. So we took the view that we wanted to have independent certification of the product so that there could be no challenge against it. So we went to an FDA-approved laboratory, which is based in County Galway, and they took 2 of our units and tested them for effectiveness against both SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19, and also something called CPE, which is a superbug bacteria, which is a growing global problem as a hospital-acquired infection. And we wanted to test how effective our MOVX is against those, and the results were outstanding, really.
And can the product, the disinfector itself, also be used for general sanitizing?
It can do. It can be, yeah. I mean, it kills bacteria and inactivates viruses, all bacteria. It's just a question of how long you run it for different viruses and different bacteria. It's not a substitute for cleaning. Cleaning still has to happen. But clinical studies show that cleaning is about 50% effective. So this doubles that, it really clears anything that remains. Now, there is, like anything, it's not a silver bullet solution. There is weaknesses in UVC as well, in that it can only kill whatever the light falls on. So shadowed areas are not affected. So you have to minimize the amount of shadowed areas and ensure you hit all the high touch points in a room.
And typically, who have you found your clients to be to date?
There's a huge cross-section, actually. I mean, obviously, doctors, medical consultants, medical clinics, and care homes, cancer care units, but also schools, hotels, sports clubs. There's a whole range, really, manufacturing companies, people with showrooms, anywhere where, hygiene concerns are high and people want to protect their own staff and they want to protect clients or customers coming in. Now, it doesn't use any chemicals. It doesn't use any gas. So anybody that comes into a room immediately after it has finished its run, there is no risk whatsoever.
And John, I understand that you're also looking at a rental model whereby homeowners could rent a steriliser for use in their own properties.
Yes, that is in planning at the moment. That's right. We've had a good many inquiries, really, from private individuals who were looking, because of maybe having rented out homes during the summer, looking for a means of ensuring that the hygiene level is back up to where they need it to be.
And have you applied for a patent to protect the technology, and are you concerned about larger international firms copying the disinfector?
No, I suppose on both counts. UVC has been around for many, many years, so it would be very difficult to get a patent on the actual technology itself. Now, where we could get a patent is we have made it as flexible and scalable as possible. And by that I mean you can stack one steriliser on top of another. You can actually stack them tree high, which increases the power output. It increases the area which you can cover in one sitting. But I'm not concerned, because patents take a long time and they cost a lot of money. And now is the need, and we just got on with it. And our intention is that we'll continue to develop and come up with new ideas. Like we have a robotic version launching now as well, which is suitable for airports and hospitals or large venues like sports stadiums. Explain
to me how that robotic version is going to work.
Well, it's very similar in many ways to the existing product, but there's a robot added to it, so it'll move about. If you have, say, an airport terminal building or gates or lounges at an airport that are unoccupied at night time, you can just set it up to run, and it'll go into all the rooms and come along by the seating, and wherever you need it to go, it'll go. You don't need a person there with it. It'll just operate itself.
And in terms of reaching global markets, John, I know that you have a 3-year plan in place and that you're already using distributors internationally. One of these locations that you're currently operating in is Azerbaijan. Why did you choose that location?
Well, that's a good question. That actually came through. It was a recommendation that came from a person, I suppose, a person that was introduced to us as someone who had contacts in the health industry around the world. And one particular company that he was connected with was operating in both Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan. And that's the entirety of the background to it.
And John, when you are appointing new distributors, what are you looking for in them?
Ideally, access to market. And we're bringing a product that is independently tested and verified. We know the product works. We need people that have access to Ideally, I suppose care homes, medical clinics, doctors as a priority. Maybe they're selling other products into those facilities already, and this is a natural add-on to what they're offering.
And John, of course, at this moment in time, in the middle of a global pandemic, viruses, COVID-19, sanitization is top of people's minds. But is this going to go through a particular lifespan?
I think the way I'm looking at it is a bit now, and it's the 20th anniversary of 9/11, but it's a bit like 9/11. 9/11 changed our psyche when it came to travel and security, and we're still living with the consequences of that 20 years later. I think the same thing will happen as a result of this pandemic, or has happened. We're far more conscious of hygiene, awareness of, crowds, the dangers of virus spreading. I think we're going to be far more conscious of hygiene going forward, and particularly in hospitals and medical clinics, even though, hygiene should have always been, and always has been, I suppose, but it's going to be at a much higher level going forward now.
And as a result of your pivot into this hygiene space over the past 18 months, there has been massive transformation go on in your own business. But how has this impacted your ability to manage the core manufacturing business?
Well, we've continued to keep both sides of the business operating side by side. We've increased our number of employees, and it's simply, I suppose, responding to what we need at any particular time, and trying to grow in line with what we perceive to be the market growth for either business, either manufacturing or in the UV business. So it's our intention at this time to keep both sides of the business going, and not to separate out into two separate businesses.
And finally, John, in terms of the long-term growth strategy for CW Applied Technology, will this be focused around developing new products such as the disinfector, or will it be through mergers or acquisitions?
For both sides of the business, I suppose there's a different approach. On the UV side, it will certainly be around innovating and developing new products and evolving the products we have. On the manufacturing side, I think mergers and acquisitions is certainly what we'd be looking for. Maybe initially collaborations with companies, and let's see how we get on, and then possibly moving into mergers. But we're looking at more the smaller manufacturing end of the market, and collaborating with companies, as I say, but growing through mergers.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was John O'Connell from CW Applied Technology, and it's great to see an Irish company innovating successfully and seeking global success as a result.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast